It's Tuesday, March 29, 2022. In the headlines, Prime Minister reinforces the need to help rid Jamaica of criminals. More metal detectors for schools. Regionally, Trinidad and Tobago students are to return to physical classes on April 19. And in sports, Reggae Boyz go down 4-0 to Canada. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gale. There will be no sitting of the House of Representatives today, March 29, as parliamentarians take a break from the recently held budget debates. Legislators will return to work on Tuesday, April 5, when Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett is scheduled to open the sectoral debate. It is understood that government ministers are expected to focus on growth as they update the country on the performance of their portfolios. Individuals and communities are safer without the presence of lottery scammers and persons with illegal guns, so says Prime Minister Andrew Holness. He reminded Jamaicans that it is their duty to help the security forces to find them.
Many of you see what is happening. Many of you know what is happening. You know that right next door you, scammers have moved in. You know that in your community, you have some young men who have guns, and they are inveigling your children to get involved with guns. And then, sadly, you get a call that somehow those young men kicked off your door and your children have been killed.
The Prime Minister stressed that the phone lines to provide information to the police are secure and citizens are protected when they help with nabbing criminals. He also reminded residents that it is financially beneficial to assist in the fight.
We have provisioned our information fund with $25 million. It is steadily being taken up. So I think that if you have information, if you know what is happening, use the channels and get that information to the police. You will be protected. Your identity will be protected. You can do it anonymously. You can benefit from it. But at the end of the day, you would have played your part in making Jamaica a safer place.
Mr. Holness says that only with the help of Jamaicans can crime be brought under control. He stressed that criminals are not helping to rebuild a better Jamaica, but to show off.
Remember this, when they rob and steal, they're not coming to fix your house. They're going to buy champagne and Hennessy and take a sip and then throw out the rest of it on the ground. And take out the water money and burn it to show how much money they have. They're not interested in you. Give up the criminals.
Mr. Holness was speaking on Friday as he delivered a 3-bedroom house to a family in Orange Bay, Portland, the latest delivery under the government's social housing program. Prime Minister Holness says 55 units have been completed with 31 houses under active construction. President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Winston Smith, says some teachers are fuming as the Education Ministry is yet to pay over monies owed. Mr. Smith says some teachers have received only part payment. The JTA boss told the press that teachers should receive the full 11 months retroactive, as retroactive money should have been paid from April 2021 to February 2022, and then a new rate would have been paid in March. In February, the majority of the association's delegates voted to accept the Finance Ministry's 4% wage offer for the 2020-2021 financial year. The Ministry of Education and Youth will be expanding the use of metal detectors in public schools as a preventative measure to curb violent altercations at learning institutions. Portfolio Minister Favour Williams made the announcement during a virtual press conference at her ministry on Friday. She says the ministry will be conducting a full audit of the extent to which metal detectors are already being used in public schools to identify any gaps relating to the provision and all utilization of these devices.
We as well directed our schools to begin utilizing, if they are not already do so, the metal detectors in our schools. Our records show that 36 schools were selected to benefit from the installation of walk-through metal detectors. 27 schools actually had the walk-through metal detectors installed, but since the full resumption of face-to-face classes, the Safety and Security in Schools unit has re-engaged the service of a provider to facilitate, to complete the installation of this equipment. Additionally, our Safety and Security in Schools unit would have also provided handheld metal detectors to all our public high schools.
The use of metal detectors to identify and prevent potential weapons from entering school compounds forms part of the ministry's response to several violent altercations occurring at schools since the start of the school year, resulting in fatalities in 2 instances. Education and Youth Minister Favour Williams is urging the school administrators to reacquaint themselves with the ministry's schools safety and security guidelines. She made the call during a virtual press brief in which she addressed the recent incidents of violence in several schools.
I know our principals, they understand how to be in terms of how to manage our schools. But again, we pointed out to them that the security and safety policy guidelines are there and they could always refer to it.
She explains that the policy guidelines states that a school is not a place for breaking the laws of the land.
Whatever is illegal in the society is illegal in the school. And the school, as the chief socialization agent of the state, has a duty to ensure that the law is observed in its domain.
She says the ministry has declared certain infractions as zero tolerance.
And these infractions will usually be prescribed in law and are prevalent and dangerous occurrences. In the guideline, we would have stated what that zero tolerance means, that principal must report the offense to the relevant authority. There is no discretion to ignore the offense. If it's designated as zero tolerance, the principal, and where appropriate, the school board must apply sanctions to the offense in accordance with the Code of Regulations and the school rules.
The Education Minister says sanctions enforced in schools must be appropriate for the offense, and administrators must ensure rehabilitation where necessary. Jamaicans are being reminded that although the Disaster Risk Management Act has been withdrawn, this is not the end of the coronavirus. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, is encouraging all Jamaicans to exercise vigilance as the virus remains a threat and it is still raging in other parts of the globe.
Again, we want to reinforce the need to recognize that despite the easing of restrictions, COVID is still a pandemic as declared by the WHO. And while we are happy for the easing, recognizing the challenges associated with the restrictions, and we are seeking to elaborate on other areas of life, we also have to always recognize that COVID is still very much out there. So urging all of us to take the necessary steps when necessary to be taken, and protect yourself where you think it is the important thing to do.
He notes that COVID-19 spikes are taking place in parts of Asia and we have to pay attention to what is happening there. He also took the opportunity to encourage all to get vaccinated.
Data that has been collected over the last 2 years, it remains overwhelmingly convincing that vaccination saves lives. The people who are hospitalized and who have died are the ones primarily, significantly, up in the 90+ percentage points, who are the ones who did not take the opportunity to get vaccinated. This is not a Jamaica statistic only, it is a global statistic. And those who took the time to get vaccinated are the ones who, even with a COVID infection, either did not have to go to the hospital, or even if they went, they recovered and went back home to their families.
The government of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, and the government of Jamaica via the Jamaica Customs Agency, JCA, will sign an MOU for the funding of a replacement intelligence management system. This will take place today, Tuesday, March 29, at the JCA's head office. This data analysis system will assist the JCA in Myers Wharf, Newport East, Kingston to effectively undertake their work in intelligence and risk management. During the signing, UK Border Force will also hand over radiation kits to the JCA, which will further enhance its border protection capabilities. Let's find out how the market is performing from our business reporter, Danita Rodney.
In foreign exchange trading for Monday, March 28th, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.38. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $122.87. The pound sterling traded for $202.41, and the euro sold for an average of $171.35. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Monday's trading session. The JSE index advanced by 1,301 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index declined by 0.42 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 1,215 points to close at over 400,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 2,588 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 105 stocks, of which 46 advanced, 40 declined, and 19 traded firm. Stocks advanced for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, and CAC 2000 Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 1834 Investments Limited, and CAC 2000 9.5% cumulative redeemable preference shares. Spiritory Spices Jamaica Limited was the volume leader with over 51 million units, followed by Edifocal Limited with over 5 million units and Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with over 4 million units. In regional stocks, on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, Clicker Investment Fund was the volume leader with over 6,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with 200 shares being traded. The Barbados Stock Exchange saw Gov't Enterprises Limited as the sole security trading 5,000 shares. It's been said that most farmers keep the majority of their agriculture inputs and earnings in their thoughts. That is no more thanks to the FarmVue app. Digitizing agriculture now takes a leap forward. Sunil Lala tells us more on TTT Live's Business Insight.
The average farmer now has access to an app where they can input their daily production, generate reports, and help them better manage the value of their output.
I'd be remiss to say there's been a few copybooks that have gotten drenched and I have lost my data. So having it on the phone helps a bit.
The FarmVue app has been in the planning stages for some time now and was officially launched in January for use by all local farmers. The app allows farmers to keep their digital records in their pocket, allowing users to input inventory and logs all sales, revenue and clients, effectively allowing them to better manage their business. Quality Assurance Manager NAMDEVCO Christopher Alexander believes the app now gives farmers a tool to properly manage their investments.
It allows the farmer himself now to have that one centralized place that he could have all these things done. I know at the end he could generate reports. He would see how his sales was for the month or, any of his clients.
And Devon Samlal Singh, an urban farmer who grows much of his ingredients to use for his bartending profession, says the app has allowed him to efficiently manage his production.
I foresee in about a couple of weeks I'll be able to check my my production rates measured to my expenses, which would be my inputs. And at that point, it'll give me a better understanding of where my accounts are, what my expenses are.
Meanwhile, CEO of the Agricultural Development Bank, Shivan Ramnath, says they have taken aboard the app to help them fast-track loans for farmers. It also forecasts the success of projects as well as their ability to repay.
It will help us to understand their patterns in terms of how they have progressed over the years through looking at trends. We understand the conditions that they would have worked on and the challenges that they would have faced, and more importantly, how they would have been able to come out of those challenges by looking at this data in terms of their production records and their financial information.
NAMDEVCO believes if there's an uptake of 80 to 90% of farmers on the app, it will make life easier for them to better understand the needs of farmers and also assist them with any policy decisions that need to be implemented. I am Sonolala with your TTT News Business Insight.
In market data for oil prices continue to drop on Tuesday, extending losses from the previous day after Russia called peace talks with Ukraine constructive and China's new lockdowns to curb the spread of the coronavirus hit fuel demand. Brent crude fell $4.55 or 4% to $107.93 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude was down $4.64 or 4.4% at $101.32 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, popular soca star Dexter Stewart, better known as Blaxx, died on Monday after contracting COVID-19. Trinidad and Tobago has registered 3,734 deaths and 137,000 infections.
According to reports, Dexter Blaxx Stewart contracted COVID-19 in early March and had been warded at the intensive care unit of the Arima Hospital. The soca star released the singles Mashup and Rock So, as well as Brass, a collaboration with Preedy for 2022, and performed at a limited number of venues during the Taste of Carnival. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, in a statement to his Facebook page, said Dexter Blaxx Stewart has been a regular talented exponent of the happy musical culture of Trinidad and Tobago. His contributions were eagerly awaited each year and appreciated by hordes of adoring fans. He will be sorely missed. Soca songstress Destra Garcia, who performed alongside Blaxx as part of the Roy Cape All-Stars, said, "No more pain, my friend. A career worth of memories, laughter, and tears. I will always cherish the times we shared. Fly on, sing with the angels, may your soul rest in eternal peace." Blaxx was hospitalized in October of 2020 after complaining of difficulty breathing and was subsequently treated for lung and kidney-related issues. In 2018, the soca artist placed second at the International Soca Monarch competition with his popular song, Hulk. Karen Cozier-Phillip, TTT News.
In Trinidad and Tobago, students will be required to return to the physical classroom in April. Education Minister Dr. Nyan Gatsby-Dolly says a measured approach is being used by the government to determine when students would return.
Based on the advice from the officials of the Ministry of Health, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has taken the decision to fully reopen all schools at the ECCE, primary, secondary and tertiary levels from April 19, 2022.
Confirmation from Education Minister Dr. Nyan Gatsby-Dolly that students who were engaged in online learning will return to the physical classrooms for the first time in 2 years. Chief Education Officer Mrs. Lisa Henry David said COVID-19 management in schools will continue to be monitored by the staff of the Education District Health Unit. She said staff, students and those who visit the school must adhere to the following rules.
Mandatory wearing of masks, the exception being our early childhood care and education students. 2. Temperature check at entry points. 3. Hand washing at stations at schools' entrances, as well as at strategic points throughout the school's compound. And 4. The use of hand sanitizers.
Students will be required to attend school every day as no rotational schedules will be operated. Director of School Supervision, Mrs. Joy Griffith, said subject and class tabling will revert to normal pre-COVID hours for primary and secondary school students. She also confirmed that whole school assembly and breaks will be allowed and provided an update on the ministry's stance to school uniforms.
The Ministry of Education is cognizant of the economic challenges experienced by some parents. As such, schools are mandated to relax uniform requirements for students according to the principal's advice to parents.
Education officials also confirmed that the curriculum has been adapted to ensure the minimum outcomes for each learning level is covered. Students will also be offered group and individual sessions on transitioning from online to physical classes. As it relates to the readiness of schools, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. Kurt Meyer, said repairs have been completed at approximately 198 schools, which include primary, secondary, and early childhood care and education centers. Kimberly D'Souza, TDT News.
Having women represented in every facet of society is a step towards breaking gender biases. At least that is the belief of Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Anigi Walrond, as she made her address at the second annual Guyana Women and Girls Summit. More from Newsroom Guyana.
Gender bias still exists at workplaces and even subconsciously in many minds, and creating a world that is diverse, equitable and inclusive is the overarching theme for this year's International Women's Day celebrations. Though usually celebrated on March 8th, activities continue throughout the month. One such being the Guyana Women and Girls Summit hosted by the Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Guyana. Its overarching objective is aimed at empowering women with the skills and the network they need to excel in their careers. This year, the summit returned with a focus to break gender bias in society, and the keynote speaker, Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Onij Walrond, noted that in order for that to happen, a deliberate effort must be made.
So this is one of my suggestions. We must purposefully and deliberately target female representation within the various domains within which we have influence. Let us in this way be our own greatest allies. Look for those qualified women. And once again, they do exist. Look for them to hire in your companies, to interact in your supply chains, and to recommend to others amongst us who need their skills.
The minister was proud to report that since taking office, over 58% of small business awards were given to women. And similarly, over 40% of the house lots were given to single women.
If we do not make the effort, we end up with a situation that we have had not so long ago, where the enterprise, which proudly advertised to the country and at this age of technology to the world, its top management team, some 14 individuals in the 21st century, of which there was not a single woman. No one, and I'm not going to look anywhere, no one who had seriously applied their minds to the issue could for a moment accept that such a situation was not glaringly indicative of some severe dysfunction. But our bias is so ingrained that that situation was instinctively accepted as natural, to the extent that someone or some group felt no hesitation in publicizing with pride such inequitable composition.
Her position was supported by the president of the Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Guyana, Rowena Elliott, who noted that while strides have been made over the years, the gender gap is still very wide in Guyana.
Women and girls have so many challenges to face daily, even outside of the workplace, and many of these hurdles are present from birth. Women are paid less, given less opportunities, and generally undervalued at every stage, while being burdened with the archaic expectations of what a woman should be. This year, we're pushing for an end to that.
The event featured presentations, panel discussions, interactive group sessions, and a platform for women entrepreneurs to network and build alliances for their business ventures. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Shakima Day.
Fresh off the heels of the week-long tour of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge in the region, members of advocacy networks and reparations committees throughout the Caribbean are standing firm in seeking reparations from the royal family. More from Our News Bahamas.
Group members say there needs to be a unified front to remove Queen Elizabeth as the head of state in the countries where she still holds that title. University of the West Indies Director of the Institute of Gender and Development Studies, Dr. Vereen Shepherd, says Prince William did not apologize for the past during his tour, and that was, quote, more than telling.
People are saying that Prince William apologized. No, he did not. An apology takes responsibility, commits to non-repetition, and commits to repair. That is what we are struggling for.
In sports, 2 goals on either side of halftime condemned already eliminated Reggae Boyz to a 4-0 drubbing at the hands of Canada in their penultimate game of the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Hoping to build on an impressive 1-1 draw with El Salvador 4 days ago in Kingston, the boys were brought down to earth as Kyle Lauren and Toshan Buchanan fired the host ahead before the break, and Junior Hullet, along with Adrian Mariappa, own goal, sealed their fate on Sunday. The result left Jamaica with their 7th defeat from 13 games and 1 from bottom of the 8-nation third round, while Canada, in contrast, qualified for a World Cup for the first time in 37 years. Jamaica returns home on Wednesday to take on Honduras in their final game. The West Indies has won the 3rd and final test match in Grenada to claim the Apex 1-0. West Indies thrashed their traditional arch rivals by 10 wickets in less than 4 days on Sunday to win their 2nd straight home series against the tourists and lift the newly minted Richards Botham Trophy for the first time. Cricket commentator Barry Wilkinson looks back at the teams and shared his thoughts and highlights.
Well, I've said before in this very same program that the England selectors gave the West Indies advantage by not bringing Stuart Broad and Jamie Anderson. Craig Brathwaite led from the front, batted extremely well, but there were so many times that, the West Indies were able to sit back and bat long periods of time because England's attack did not look potent. Wood was injured, and I thought to myself that it was ludicrous to have Mark Wood as your main fast bowler because of his antecedents to get injured. I mean, he's often an injured kind of player, and England had him as the man to spare the attack. It was ludicrous. It was very poor planning on the England selectors. But, you speak about the positives in the West Indies team. You spoke about Craig Brathwaite. The bowling has to be given tremendous credit. The batting fell away at some periods of time. In fact, in 2 tests, they were under a little bit of pressure at some times. And they were led on first innings too. So let's compliment the bowling. Jaden Seals, 8 out of 10. Kemar Roach, the same. And I love how Kemar Roach not only bowled to get 8 out of 10, but how he kept the pressure on every time. Calmeris could put some pressure on Jason Holder as the all-rounder in the team if Jason doesn't start to be more consistent. So things are looking good for the West Indies, but they have Bangladesh coming next. They have New Zealand as well coming later on in the year, and a couple of ODIs with India. So they must show that level of consistency if they're going to be taken seriously in world cricket. One of the things that I'm seeing that I think is a very, very good attribute is a team spirit that has not been seen so good and so consistent in terms of how they've come and supported each other in a long time. That is also another good factor. So look, kudos to the West Indies. They deserved the victory, but I thought England, especially the selectors, made a heavy blunder with not bringing their strongest side here.
Captain Craig Brathwaite shares what's next for the team and what they learned.
I think we learned a lot from this series. Different periods where we saw we could do it. I will always use yesterday. It was really a remarkable day for us, and to show the fight, and the attitude we had from the get-go, from the warm-up, I think it's key to carry that forward. Obviously, next test series potentially is in June, and it's just to keep building. We build a lot of blocks, in this series, and we got to continue. We can't take it for granted. It's easy, to be happy with a series win and relax, but I don't think we can relax. We got to go back, to our respective territories, put in some work. We have some first-class games, in May before the next test series. So guys got to stay hungry. You know, I think staying hungry is really the key.
And with that, we call an end to today's newscast. On behalf of our entire news and production team, thank you so much for watching. Remember, PBCJ is the People's Station.